Hey everyone, it's Mr. Suzanne, and today I want to talk to you about something that just keeps showing up in my life, and in the lives of so many people. I feel like that are on social media and live their life to create content. Um, when you live publicly, there are just it's inevitable that people are going to make assumptions. Um, People build stories around us. They fall in love with the image that we've created, and they have a whole narration in their head in terms of what we're like and how we are. Um, they fail to really see the real person behind the screen, behind the content, right? And that's the thing, is that I am a real person. I have a real story. Um, and no matter how blatantly obvious I make it sometimes to even put the honest truth out there, people will still build their own story around me because of how they'd like me to be, or a fantasy they have in their head, or again, about assumptions, just making assumptions. And we all make assumptions, but some of us a lot less than others. In fact, I pride myself on not assuming. I always give people like 10 different things in my head that it could be this, it could be that. Whereas I find a lot of people don't do that. So someone recently had a session with me, just one, and now they are absolutely infatuated with me. Um, they say that they think about me night and day. Um, but they've made assumptions about my past, about my relationships, even about my politics. And they don't seem to read a single sentence in my content. They're just looking at the image of me and creating this whole fantasy in their head about me. Like, for example, he assumed that I went to prison for something that was sex related. Meanwhile, it says right underneath my video that I just recently did about a story in prison that I went to prison because I was held at gunpoint. I was held at gunpoint to cross the border with drugs. So that was very trauma related. It was extremely trauma related. Like, I wouldn't wish jail or prison, upon my worst enemy. Prison wasn't a choice for me. It was a trauma. Um, and again, he saw it the way he wanted to see it. Um, he didn't read it. He didn't read that. And that right there is exactly what the core of today's video is about, what I want to talk to you about. Being reduced to somebody else's narrative as a public figure. Because I've spent years building my life, my career, and a voice that's rooted in truth. That's what I'm all about. Being honest, transparent. And yet I'm constantly amazed at, how many people throw all of that out. Just throw it out. Just so they can cling to this version of me that they've created in their mind. A version of me, not the real me. So, and it's not just people, like, it's not just my clients. When I was 20 years old, for example, I fell really hard for someone. And he was in the Marines, and he was stationed just across the border from where I am in Vancouver. And I thought we had something so real. But then one day, he just, poof, disappears. And it turns out that his high school sweetheart had come up from down in the States and surprised him, and they decided to move in together. And just like that, I was erased from the picture. Just like that, gone. So, like, all these years later, like, we've reconnected here and there. over the years, and he still gives me this glow inside when I talk to him. And so I decided that I was going to come and visit him. And it was a huge leap for me. I just don't do things like that. But and on top of it all, it was for Valentine's Day, and I was excited. I was actually scared, nervous, like to see him again. And I asked him beforehand too, is there somebody that you're seeing? And he said, no, I would be honest with you if there was. And then from that moment on, I heard nothing from him, not a phone call, nothing. And the time that I was supposed to be there, still, he didn't even so much as call me, text me, nothing. I didn't hear a peep from him. So, the most heartbreaking part of that is that he's watching my videos again. Yeah, but he hasn't said a single word, not an apology, nothing. It leaves me wondering, like, what version of me is he looking at? Because he can't possibly be seeing me, the woman that survived trauma and, who's raised a child alone, who's built a business from scratch, and who's grown and evolved and lived. There's a real person there. Like, but yet he only sees what I post. He only sees what I post. And like so many others, he's mistaken that for the full picture. That's a fact. And here's what I've learned is that people will choose the version of you that fits best into their fantasy, their comfort zone, their worldview. When they do that, they lose out on the real you. The beautiful, messy, complicated, real version. And truly, that's their loss. So to anyone out there who feels misunderstood, misread or misjudged, especially if you live your truth online, I see you. You are not a projection. You are not a headline. You are not a stereotype. And you don't owe anyone the version of you that they see. Or and that they prefer, really. So if anyone isn't willing to listen or even to show up, they don't get access to your story. So if you've been through something like this, feel free to share it in the comments, please. Let's talk about it. Let's break the illusion together. And don't forget to leave a like for my video, and please subscribe. It does help me out. And on that note, kisses, my pets. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.